Happy New Year. If you have been watching me for any extended amount of time, I am sure you have noticed a transformation or transition. So, what I want to do today is talk about my Zepbound journey. I want to talk about why I got started, how the process went when I was going through the active weight loss process, and then what maintenance turned into and what it is for me now. So, all right, here we go. I spent the majority of my life, the first 30 something years, very small, very slim. Um, Outside of gaining some weight during pregnancies, and I have 5 daughters, I was pretty slim. So I had poor habits, but it didn't seem to affect me. We're going to say it was metabolism because it wasn't like I was super active and in the gym. But when I hit my 30s, that changed. So I would go through gaining some weight, then I would do some stuff, lose it. And it got to a point where I was gaining even more. But instead of making lifestyle changes, I would do what I saw other people doing. So it would be these faddish ways to lose weight. I did some diet where you were eating boiled eggs, and I think it was called the military diet. I did that. And believe it or not, I had started going to a gym. This was one of my New Year, New Me times, right? Um, I think it was called Bally's, if I'm not mistaken. This is when I was in San Antonio. And that trainer is the one that gave me that 3-day diet, totally unhealthy. So things like that. I even did HCG. And of course, I was eating a very low calorie diet. And yes, the weight dropped off, but then it came back on and then some. So I would do things like that over the years. And I started to get more and more discouraged. I also started to have health issues. And those health issues were a result of a poor diet and poor lifestyle. So I had a health scare in 2020. I almost died. And that was kind of eye opening for me. And I made lifestyle changes. And I felt, I don't know about you or how other people handle this, but when you have something like a near death experience, it changes the way that you look at things. So I was locked in. I lost, I wish I could tell you exactly, it was 80 something pounds. And I felt great. But then slowly but surely, I picked up those terrible habits again and I gained the weight back. Not all of it, but like 50 something of those pounds. Then in 2023, I was prescribed Wegovy and I took that for a little while and I started having issues with getting it filled. So I didn't want to spend 1600 and some change. And so I just stopped. I stopped trying to pursue getting that prescription filled. But with that, I didn't make any lifestyle changes. I didn't know that there were people. I wasn't really, I guess I had never looked for that content on YouTube. So, and I didn't personally know anyone that was on that. I didn't even know that was a thing, right? So I stopped. I stopped taking it. I didn't even know about compound or anything like that. But the point is, I made no lifestyle changes, nothing. I leaned heavy in on not having an appetite, and I really wasn't eating much of anything. And the things that I was eating, they weren't healthy. So again, although I was a vegan, I was a very unhealthy vegan. And so I stopped that. When I stopped taking Wegovy, I gained in a month and a half nearly 30 pounds. Now, I know that wasn't just fat, but it was a lot of inflammation. And when I tell you my appetite came back with a vengeance, I, 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 I was regularly eating to the point where I felt like sick and I felt like I didn't have any control over it. So that was my story for that. And then I had heard about Zepbound. And so I went to the provider, not my main doctor, but the provider that had initially prescribed the Wegovy to me or for me. And she was not willing to prescribe Zepbound. She was fine with giving me Vyvanse. And I'd gotten to a point where I didn't want to take that. It's an amphetamine. And I got to a point where that wasn't helping. Like initially, it was helping with appetite suppression. And just so you know, Vyvanse is for ADHD, but it's also prescribed for binge eating disorder, which that is something that I was officially diagnosed with, and I was in therapy for that. And so because I didn't find any, but because she wasn't willing to help me, I started looking elsewhere. The VA wasn't going to prescribe it to me because they wanted me to go through the MOVE program, and I did not want to do that again. It was, the requirement is weighing yourself, at least the virtual one. I don't know what the in-person one is like, but you have to weigh yourself every day. And because I was watching for that period of time, my weight go up every day because of the way that I was eating and I wasn't moving my body, that was discouraging for me, and I didn't wanna do that. So I got on Reddit, and I found the Zepbound subreddit, and that's when I learned about telehealth companies. Like, all of that stuff, I knew nothing about it. So, I was seeing different people's experiences, and I ended up going with PlushCare. So when I had the meeting with that doctor, I was able to provide the blood work that I had the labs that I had done at the VA, and because I have have obstructive sleep apnea, that was a comorbidity. Also, my cholesterol was high. Not high enough where I was prescribed anything, but it was high. And that was something that I also experienced when I was slim. So it wasn't just the weight. Okay. So I get prescribed in February. Medication finally comes in, took my first shot, and I noticed within a matter of hours, I wasn't like stressing about what I was going to eat next. And that was a great feeling. And then it continued to be that way. And I started off at 2.5 milligrams, took that for 4 weeks, and then I went up to 5. Now, the provider that I had through PlushCare at that time said that he didn't anticipate me needing to go higher than 5 milligrams. And that was the case for me. And so the entire time, I have taken one shot every week. Now, I skipped a week when I had a colonoscopy done, and then I skipped another week when um, I was waiting for a prescription to be put in, and there was kind of like a lapse there. But outside of that, I have taken it once a week, every week. And I have not noticed feeling, I don't notice a different feeling, right? It's programmed in my phone. So I remember, okay, hey, it's Sunday, take your shot. So that has been a good experience. I didn't have any side effects. So let me tell you the things that I cut out when I started Zepbound. I was drinking multiple lattes a day, energy drinks. I was going to Chick-fil-A a lot, eating greasy French fries. I was doing a lot of the Beyond meats. There was some like Beyond Steak or something like that. I could eat a whole package of that in one sitting with other things. So these are the things like I was like, I'm going to switch to whole food plant based because there was a short amount of time that I had done that in the past where I felt better. So I don't drink anymore. I stopped drinking, I want to say it was in 2023. That was the last time I had any alcohol, September of 2023. So that wasn't something I had to worry about cutting out. And what I was looking for in the Zepbound subreddit was side effects. I didn't necessarily want to hear everybody's great stories. I wanted to see, okay, what are people struggling with? And I haven't had any side effects. So I know that everyone's different. You could do things right and still have it. But my experience was I didn't want to take any chances. So I cut these things out. And the weight initially started dropping off really quickly. And I don't know if you would call that a super responder, or maybe I just wasn't eating enough food, or it could have been going from eating so many calories to cutting things down lower. It was significant. When I did track in January of 2024, there were a couple of days where it was a 6,000 calorie day. And it sounds mind-boggling. I don't know how I was able to even eat that amount of food, but I can understand why I was struggling so much. There were nights where I couldn't even lay down all the way because acid reflux was really bad. So anyway, I don't want to go off on a tangent. I made those changes. 2 weeks into my Zepbound experience, I started strength training and I found Kira Mitlow. The channel used to be called Strong Sisters United. And I just did her workouts. And I started where I was. I couldn't even get through a whole workout without being winded or needing to take a break, but I did what I could and I stayed consistent with it. I also started tracking everything I ate. And this was after having my first DEXA scan when I started on Zepbound. And I had lost a significant amount of muscle. And I wasn't happy about that. So I wanted to make sure, like, I couldn't even tell you what I was doing back then, like if I was really eating enough calories because I wasn't tracking anything. So this wasn't when I made a decision to do that, it wasn't about being super restrictive. It was about making sure that I was getting enough because I didn't want to continue to lose a bunch of muscle. I also recognize that I'm not 216 pounds. I'm not 183 pounds. I don't need the amount of muscle that I had at those weights. So I'm okay with that now. Um, Instagram. I created an Instagram and it was strictly to be a food and exercise diary. So it was a way for me to be able to reflect on what I was doing. And what's nice is I can look back based off of my different DEXA scans, the time frame. So I can go to Instagram and look, okay, this is what I was doing during that time. So that's what it was about. It was something that I was sharing, but it was for me. And I had different comments, throughout my time on YouTube where, I remember one in particular saying that uh, basically kind of a little crappy because the way that I was tracking. Mind you, this person was watching the video. So anyway, that wasn't too much for me at that time. That is what I wanted to do. So when I got to a point where I didn't feel like, and this is recent, where I don't feel like I need to do all that because again, that was for me and I have it down. I have it down. I know what I should be eating. I still weigh things out from time to time in grams, but I know how to eat for myself now where I didn't really know that before. And I didn't have a concept of appropriate portion sizes for me. So, okay. Now, let's see. We get to right before the cruise. I went on the downsize cruise. This was back in June of 2025. And even before that cruise, I couldn't, usually I would have the next program picked out before I finished. I was having a hard time. So I was like, well, I'll figure it out when I get back. So we go on the cruise, I come back, nothing was jumping out to me. Like I had done certain things multiple times, but nothing was calling me. So what I did is I signed up for a gym membership. I had ran into one of the co-owners of a gym that I went to in the past, and I thought, "Oh, that's a sign. That's what I should be doing." So I signed up and I was doing that. And of course, I was very consistent with it. But then I even got to a point where I was just like, I don't know. I thought it was just a time of year. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I didn't want to do that anymore. And then some other personal things happened, in the family where funds needed to be redirected. So that is something that I cut out. And I felt this pressure to like jump into something else. Like, well, I'm showing up here every week. I don't have weight loss to talk about because I'm beyond that, right? I didn't have anything to show. And I think I felt like I needed to be doing something. So I tried different programs, but my heart wasn't in it. And I just stopped. So I had to figure out what is it that I want? And I think that I just maybe in December really came to grips with I'm not interested in building a whole bunch of muscle. I am content with the way that I look now. I am overjoyed with the way that I feel. I had a fibromyalgia flare up in December, and that helped me with slowing down because stress can trigger that, cold weather can trigger that. Um, so I wanted to make sure, okay, let me calm down and let me slow things down. So I have had time to reflect and I am just not interested in doing those things. So then I thought, well, maybe I want to take my channel in a different direction because I don't have these things to share, but this is something to share. I am at that point where I don't care about the same things that I cared about when I first started. I, again, am not interested in building any more muscle. I don't want to get any smaller than I am. So, really, this is just maintenance, right? And that's what maintenance is about, maintaining. And I felt like I was always like putting these goals, like I had to chase the next goal. And it's okay. Chasing the next goal. And so, who am I doing that for? So, that is a question that I had to sit down and really ask myself, why are you doing these things? Is this what you really want to do? And because I showed up the way that I did with posting every single thing I ate, every single workout, it was kind of like this pressure. Maybe sometimes I don't feel like setting up a camera and I just want to do something. Or maybe I'm making a meal and I don't want to run down and grab my phone because I just want to be in the moment. I don't really like being out in public. Now, for a time, it didn't bother me, but having a feeling like I have to pull out a camera to do something, especially when the whole reason I was doing it was supposed to be for me. So here I am. We did a vision board party, and you can check that out. I'm going to put a link in the description for Downsizing Diva. And if you see my vision board, I go through that in that video. So if you're interested in it, check that out. But I I'm out of that season. So I can show up and tell you what my days are looking like, how I'm feeling, what's working for me and what's not working for me. But I need you to understand that I don't care about my weight. So I'm not weighing myself. And if you're interested, I lost a total of 58 pounds and now I'm at 132. So I gained a little bit and I'm happy with that because when I look back at some of the pictures and videos, I got a little smaller than I anticipated. And maybe I thought building more muscle or because I was small, like I had something to prove. This is me. This is me. And I'm content. I'm content. So I'm still doing little things like I'm doing body weight exercises, push-ups. Um, I recently found the pull-up bar when we did that whole garage clean out. So getting into that, I've only done that a few times, nothing crazy. But as far as push-ups, even with all the strength training I was doing, I was not a standard push-up, not able to do, I could barely do one, surprisingly. And now I'm up to 12. So these are things that I'm doing behind the scenes without feeling like I've got to document every part. But I do want to come and show up more with talking about how I feel. And I think that's important. So when I tell you to do things that make you feel good, that's what I mean. If you are not interested in being a gym rat, you don't have to do that. But just know you got to move your body, right? And we have to, whatever our expectations are, the things that we do, they have to line up with that. That's it. So if you don't want to move your body and you're fine with losing a bunch of weight and losing muscle and all of that, that's okay. That is your right. Don't feel pressured into doing something. But again, we got to have realistic expectations. So I had a DEXA scan done today, which I had said I was going to do. And the most important number on there for me was the visceral adipose tissue. And that has dropped down significantly. It's the lowest it's been this entire time. So, where I'm not focused on building a bunch of muscle, I'm really not worried about trying to lose any more fat. I really am just trying to maintain. So, that is where I am with this journey. I lost a bunch of weight initially, then it, tapered off and was slow and steady. And I got to a point where I was like, okay, I don't necessarily want to be this small. Like I had no vision of even being in the 120s or 130s. It was great. Like I put that down on paper. The initial goal was 135, but I really didn't expect to get there. And I thought it could be a bit unrealistic, but I said, what the heck? I can put it on there. So I'm 5'7", 5'7", 48 years old. and my current weight is 132 pounds, and I'm perfectly happy with that. I will continue to do things. There are gonna be seasons where maybe I do come across a program and I wanna do it, and that's okay. But I can tell you right now this year, I'm focusing on how I feel and doing things that make me feel good, not performative things, not doing things because I think that that's what I should be doing or because anyone else is doing anything, but learning how to fully accept me the way that I am. And that is something that takes work. And I'm working on that and working on feeling like being okay with just being enough. So I don't want to get emotional. I'm going to go ahead and cut it off right here. But if you've been here a while and you've noticed a change, I just want to acknowledge that there has been a change and my goals are totally different. Consistency is important, but accepting myself the way that I am and fully being okay with that, that is the work this year and for the rest of my life. Knowing that I am enough, it's okay to just be me, and it's okay to change your mind. So, if you're interested in still sticking around and seeing that, I am happy to have you here. And if not, I totally understand. And you know, whatever you do, make sure you're doing something because it's what you want to do. Don't worry about the outside noise or what everyone else is doing. And with that, I'm going to leave you with we can share our journeys, but we should never compare them. Bye.